Welcome back to my channel. Celeb Buzz, please share and subscribe and press the bell icon for new updates. After 28 years, JonBenet Ramsey's brother finally talks, leaving the world shocked. JonBenet Patricia Ramsey was born on August 6, 1990 in Atlanta, Georgia, United States, into a family that would soon become the focus of one of the most sad and widely talked about criminal cases in American history. Her parents, Patsy and John Ramsey, were well-known people. John was a successful businessman and business owner known for his job as the president of Access Graphics, a multi-million-dollar computer services company. Patsy Ramsey, on the other hand, had a background in beauty contests and public presence, having been crowned Miss West Virginia in 1977. Their combined social status and wealth gave JonBenet a privileged upbringing. JonBenet was not an only child. She had an older brother named Burke Ramsey, who was 3 years older than her, and two adult half-siblings from her father's previous marriage. This family gave JonBenet a mix of older sibling guidance and an extended family network. The Ramsey family lived in Boulder, Colorado, where they enjoyed the comforts and privileges of a large fancy home located in a safe, wealthy neighborhood. JonBenet's childhood was marked by the attention and care of her parents, who loved their young daughter very much. The family's lifestyle was one of luxury, but also filled with warmth and love, giving JonBenet a stable and caring environment. She was raised in a household where her interests and talents were encouraged and supported completely. From a very young age, JonBenet was known to be a bright, outgoing child with a natural charm and lively personality. She was an extrovert who did well in social situations and loved being the center of attention. Her infectious smile and signature bouncy blonde hair quickly made her easy to recognize to those around her. By the time she was just 6 years old, JonBenet had already achieved notable success in the world of child beauty contests, winning multiple titles that showed her charisma and poise. The beauty contest circuit was a big part of her life, and one where she truly shined, with her love for dressing up in fancy costumes and sparkling outfits, adding to her stage presence. Beyond beauty contests, JonBenet was a young girl attending kindergarten at High Peaks Elementary School in Boulder, where she talked with peers and teachers, enjoying the innocence and curiosity typical of a child her age. However, this perfect childhood came to a horrifying end on December 26, 1996, a date that would be forever remembered in the memories of her family, the community, and the nation. On that cold winter morning, Patsy Ramsey found a handwritten ransom note placed on the kitchen staircase of their home. The note was unusual and scary, spanning 3 pages and demanding an exact sum of $118,000.00, an amount suspiciously close to John Ramsey's reported year-end bonus. The note said that the money should be delivered in exchange for the safe return of JonBenet. It was only upon seeing the scary message that Patsy realized her daughter was missing. Right away, alarmed and desperate, she contacted the police to report the situation. The discovery of the ransom note started a frantic and intense investigation. Tragically, by that same afternoon, the nightmare got worse when John Ramsey found JonBenet's lifeless body hidden in the basement of their home. She had suffered severe trauma. Her skull was fractured and she had been the victim of a brutal assault. The investigation revealed that JonBenet had been sexually assaulted and then strangled with a garrote made from a cord and a broken paintbrush handle, the latter belonging to her mother. Despite the sexual assault, forensic experts found no conclusive evidence of rape. The official medical cause of death was determined to be suffocation by strangulation associated with head trauma, confirming the death was a homicide. Following the tragic events, JonBenet's remains were laid to rest with dignity at St. James Episcopal Cemetery in Marietta, Georgia. The site held additional sadness because she was buried next to her elder half-sister, Elizabeth Pash Ramsey, who had tragically died in a car crash 4 years earlier at the age of 22. This family graveyard became a sad reminder of the Ramsey family's deep sorrow, marking the loss of 2 beloved daughters under heartbreaking circumstances. The investigation into JonBenet Ramsey's tragic death was ruined by numerous critical mistakes from the very beginning, which severely hurt the integrity of the evidence and the overall progress of the case. From the start, the police seemed to approach the situation under the assumption that JonBenet had been kidnapped rather than immediately considering that a violent crime may have occurred within the home. This assumption of kidnapping resulted in poor scene management. Crucially, the entire house was not treated as a potential crime scene. Only JonBenet's bedroom was cordoned off by law enforcement. The failure to secure the rest of the home allowed for potential contamination and tampering of evidence. Family members and others were able to move freely throughout the house, potentially disturbing crucial forensic traces. This lack of control over the crime scene is often cited by forensic experts as one of the most significant errors in the handling of the investigation. Moreover, the parents, John Patsy Ramsey, were permitted to move JonBenet's body from the basement where it was found, rather than waiting for forensic experts to document the scene and collect evidence. This movement of the body destroyed important evidence about how and where the child had been killed, and may have obscured the precise details of the crime. Adding to the investigation's flawed procedures, the parents were interviewed and questioned together rather than separately. Standard investigative protocol in cases like this dictates that suspects or persons of interest be interviewed individually to avoid coordinated stories or undue influence on each other's statements. The joint questioning likely affected the truth and independence of their testimonies, weakening the reliability of information gained. The infamous ransom note left at the scene added another layer of mystery and controversy to the case. The note was unusually long, approximately 2.5 pages, which is atypical for a hurried ransom demand. The paper on which it was written was found to belong to the Ramsey household, raising suspicions that the note may have been fake or staged by someone inside the house. Language experts and handwriting analysts debated whether the note was genuinely written by an outsider or possibly by someone within the family. The length and carefulness of the note contrasted sharply with the urgency one would expect from an actual kidnapper under pressure, further complicating the case. Forensic analysis also revealed that the fibers from the duct tape used to bind JonBenet's body matched fibers found on Patsy Ramsey's clothing, an alarming connection that suggested a possible link between the family and the means of restraint. Despite these troubling signs, there were no indications of forced entry into the Ramsey home on the night of the murder, and no one outside the immediate family was reported to be in the house during the early morning hours. This fact cast further suspicion on the family, as it seemed unlikely that a stranger could have entered and left unnoticed. Adding to this, there was never any actual contact made to the parents demanding ransom, which is highly unusual in genuine kidnapping cases. The absence of any follow-up communication suggested that the ransom note might have been a deliberate attempt to mislead investigators and cover up the true circumstances of JonBenet's death. Although there were several circumstantial indicators pointing towards the parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, as potential suspects, law enforcement and forensic scientists were unable to conclusively link them to the crime. In 1998, the district attorney announced that DNA testing performed on samples recovered from the crime scene did not implicate any members of the immediate family. This finding helped to shift some focus away from the Ramseys, but did not provide a clear alternative suspect, leaving the case in a difficult state of limbo. The inconclusive nature of the forensic evidence became a source of frustration for investigators and the public alike. Despite widespread media scrutiny and public suspicion directed against the Ramseys, the official legal proceedings followed a different course. The Boulder County grand jury, after reviewing the evidence, voted to indict the parents for their alleged involvement in JonBenet's murder. However, the Boulder district attorney at the time, Alex Hunter, decided against pressing charges, citing insufficient evidence to meet the standard required for prosecution. Hunter concluded in December 1999 that there was not enough proof to formally accuse John and Patsy Ramsey of any wrongdoing. This decision sparked intense debate and controversy, as many in the public and press believed the parents had somehow been shielded from accountability. Years later, in 2003, advances in DNA technology led to new developments that shifted the narrative once again. DNA samples taken from JonBenet's clothing in the crime scene were matched to an unknown male whose genetic profile did not belong to any family member or known suspect. This discovery suggested that a stranger unrelated to the Ramseys could have been responsible for the murder. Following this revelation, the Boulder Police Department publicly apologized to John and Patsy Ramsey, effectively clearing their names in the eyes of the law. Feeling vindicated but deeply affected by years of public accusation, the Ramseys filed defamation lawsuits against various media organizations that had alleged their involvement in the crime, seeking to restore their reputations. It has been nearly 3 decades since the tragic and mysterious death of 6-year-old beauty Queen JonBenet Ramsey gripped the nation and became one of the most haunting and unresolved cases in American history. For 28 long years, the world has speculated, theorized, and searched for answers as the shadow of doubt loomed over the investigation, the media coverage, and most notably the Ramsey family itself. Now in a revelation that has stunned millions across the globe, JonBenet's older brother, Burke Ramsey, has finally broken his long-held silence, stepping out of the shroud of mystery that has surrounded him since that fateful Christmas night in 1996. This unexpected decision to speak publicly has triggered a wave of renewed attention and emotional reflection. Burke, who was just 9 years old at the time of his sister's murder, has spent most of his life in seclusion, avoiding the press and refusing to directly confront the swirling allegations and public speculation that often centered around him. Over the years, various documentaries, news specials, and online communities have debated his possible role or knowledge about the case, despite the fact that no formal charges were ever filed against him or any other family member. This silence, whether self-imposed or advised, only intensified the intrigue and fed into conspiracy theories that spread like wildfire across the media and internet forums. Now a grown man in his late 30s, Burke's decision to come forward is not only courageous, but also deeply emotional as he revisits the trauma of losing a sister and enduring decades of suspicion and media scrutiny. In his interview, Burke opened up about the psychological toll the tragedy took on him, how it altered the course of his entire life, and the complexities of growing up in the public eye under a cloud of suspicion. He spoke about the deep pain of losing JonBenet, describing her as a vibrant, joyful little girl who brought light and laughter to their home. His account paints a picture of a shattered childhood, one marked not only by grief, but also by the heavy burden of unwanted fame and constant judgment. What shocked the world the most, however, was Burke's candid perspective on the investigation and how law enforcement and the media handled the case in its critical early days. He criticized the mishandling of evidence, the decision to allow his parents to speak jointly with police rather than separately, and the fact that the crime scene was never properly secured. Burke also addressed the infamous ransom note, long considered one of the most bizarre elements of the case, expressing his own confusion and frustration that to this day, no one has definitively uncovered its origins. He also voices support for advanced DNA testing methods and urges law enforcement to re-examine every shred of remaining evidence using today's technology. He makes it clear that he wants justice for his sister, not just to clear his own name once and for all, but to bring resolution to a case that has tormented his family and the public for nearly 3 decades. Perhaps most surprising was Burke's expression of compassion toward his late parents, John and Patsy Ramsey, who were often painted in a negative light. He defended their actions in the aftermath of the crime, explaining that they were operating under immense emotional distress, being simultaneously devastated by the loss of their daughter and accused of playing a role in her death. Burke's comments offered a rare glimpse into the Ramsey family's internal struggles, revealing the intense fear, isolation, and mistrust they endured during one of the most invasive media frenzies of the 1990s. Burke's decision to speak has reignited widespread interest in the case, prompting both public outcry and calls for renewed investigations using modern forensic technology, including advanced DNA testing. True crime communities, legal experts, and former investigators have been dissecting his statements, hoping they might hold new clues or insights that could finally lead to the truth about what happened on that chilling night in Boulder, Colorado. His long-awaited voice in this mystery does not necessarily solve the case, but it has added a powerful, deeply human layer to a story that has often been reduced to tabloid headlines and sensational theories. After 28 years of silence, the world is now listening more closely than ever before, not just for answers, but for understanding, closure, and maybe at long last, justice for JonBenet Ramsey.